I have to say, while it's only my 8th day on the job, I can't think of a better way to spend it than being with you all for this truly special event. The Juneteenth legislation before the governor is important on its own, but it carries a special resonance for us here at the Presidential Library and Museum because of its direct connection to Abraham Lincoln and his vision for an America without slavery. With the Emancipation Proclamation, he made ending slavery an official goal of the Civil War. He transformed a battle for the nation's survival into a battle for the nation's soul. And while Lincoln alone didn't end slavery, hundreds of thousands of soldiers, both Black and white, fought to make freedom possible. Enslaved people, through their very bodies, fought to ensure that the generations who followed them would have a new birth of freedom. You can't truly understand Abraham Lincoln's impact and legacy on America without hearing those stories, and we look forward to telling more of them in the future. We have a signed copy of the Emancipation Proclamation here with us today. And I have to imagine President Lincoln would be proud to say and to see it here as the governor of his home state signs legislation establishing a holiday celebrating the end of slavery. And with that, let me introduce Governor JB Pritzker.
Well, thank you very much, Director Schutt. On behalf of the people of the state of Illinois, I am so proud to welcome you and your family here to Springfield and to our state. The ALPLM is a national gem, and it has awaited your historic leadership. Great things are poised to happen here, and we all look forward to the new and innovative ways that this museum will continue to bring Abraham Lincoln to life for the millions of people who will visit here in the coming years. It is always a special privilege for me to recognize Leader Kimberly Lightford and Representative LaShawn Ford for their tireless work to ensure that Illinois would recognize Juneteenth as a state holiday and to make Illinois a national leader in confronting racism with real policy changes that will improve the lives of all Illinoisans. I'm always proud to be together with my partner in governance, our Lieutenant Governor, Juliana Stratton, with my friend Chris Welch, fresh off his historic first session as our state's first Black Speaker of the House. Our hosts, Senator Doris Turner and Representative Sue Scherer, in whose districts we stand, House Majority Conference Chair LaToya Greenwood, Senators Adrian Johnson and Chris Belt, and Representatives Maurice West and Lakeisha Collins, Rita Mayfield, David Welter, Debbie Myers-Martin, Nick Smith, Camille Lilly, Mark Batnick, Jeff Kiker, Cyril Nichols, and Marcus Evans. I don't know how you take roll in the House of Representatives. I also want to recognize the longstanding advocacy of the Illinois Juneteenth Committee. Represented today by a founding member, Marjorie Adam Clark, as well as those many, many individuals who have taken it upon themselves to bring awareness about Juneteenth to their communities. Two of them are here with us today. Forest Park Mayor Rory Hoskins. Mayor Hoskins was involved in the effort to make Juneteenth a paid holiday for Cook County employees, along with Commissioners Deere and Lowry and more. And Tommy Meeks, who has been organizing Juneteenth celebrations and awareness events in the Rockford community for more than 30 years. Behind me to my left sits a rare copy of the Emancipation Proclamation, upon which 159 years ago, President Abraham Lincoln put pen to paper, thereby declaring all residents of the Confederacy thenceforth and forever free. Every resident. The words inscribed in Lincoln's proclamation intended to mean that Black women and men and children whose blood, tears, and enslavement were shed to help build this nation should finally be freed from bondage. President Lincoln meant every man, woman, and child who had been forced to work in a field under awful conditions, every mother forced to hand over her children into another generation of slavery, every person whose labor was stolen to enrich a white master. He meant every Black person beaten, every Black woman raped, every Black child orphaned. For a nation that had for so long allowed brutality and injustice to be visited on some Americans to enrich others, the proclamation represents a seminal moment in the moral arc of the universe bending toward justice. But change requires so much more than just words on paper. President Lincoln's executive order and proclamation meant that every person in the Confederate States should have been freed right away. But as the history of Juneteenth reminds us, it took more than 2 years after Lincoln signed it before it would be enforced in places like Texas at the edge of the Confederacy and the Union. Today, even a full 156 years after the 13th Amendment formally and constitutionally declared slavery illegal throughout the entire United States, we all know what it means to see justice as yet undelivered. And every day we see our nation's past failures reverberate through the soul of our nation. But we are not without hope, and Illinois can bring hope to the rest of the nation. Just as Illinois led the nation as the first state to ratify the 13th Amendment ending slavery in 2021, we are leading the nation in tackling structural racism now, head on, thanks to the guiding vision of Leader Lightford and Representative Ford and Speaker Welch and the entire Illinois Legislative Black Caucus. It has been my honor to stand with the ILBC as an advocate and as an ally, and I was proud to sign into law the caucus's 4 pillars of reform: criminal justice reform, education and workforce development reform, healthcare and human services reform, and economic access, equity, and opportunity. And today, it brings me exceptional pride that in a few moments, I will sign into law the declaration of Juneteenth as a formal state holiday in Illinois, making us one of the few states in the nation to give it the full status that it deserves. Illinois will continue the recognition of Juneteenth throughout the state, lowering all flags covered by the Illinois Flag Display Act to half-staff on Saturday. In addition, Secretary of State Jesse White and I are proud to announce that this year and every year henceforth, a Juneteenth flag will fly proudly over our state capitol here in Springfield. These advancements are yet another essential step in our journey toward justice. With this new law, no longer can a child grow up in Illinois without learning about Juneteenth in school. With this change, the people of Illinois will have a day to reflect on how the freedom that we celebrate just 2 weeks later on the 4th of July was delayed to Black Americans, and in many ways is delayed still. This weekend, as the calendar turns to June 19th, 2021, I urge all Americans to find some time to learn more about the history of Juneteenth, about black codes, about the Springfield race riot and the founding of the NAACP, and the reasons why our beloved dream of freedom and opportunity for all is not yet truly fully realized. I encourage everyone to start right here in Springfield at the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Library and Museum, where the Emancipation Proclamation is on display for all to see through July 6th. I cannot encourage you strongly enough to come here. This is a rare and fragile piece of our country's history. There are only a handful of copies of the Emancipation Proclamation in the world. It is our privilege as Illinoisans to house this great document, and it is our sacred responsibility to keep its moral compass alive in our own times, especially as we become a leader in the nation in the depth of our recognition of this new Juneteenth state holiday. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my great pleasure to introduce a steadfast advocate for honoring history and a change maker in her own right, Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Governor Pritzker. You know, I was thinking back to last year in the wake of George Floyd's tragic murder, when we joined people across our state and our nation and the globe in protest and demanding equal justice under the law for all. And I remember at one of those marches, you boldly proclaimed that Juneteenth would become a state holiday in Illinois, and here we are today. Thank you for keeping your word. The governor has already acknowledged our esteemed speakers and those joining us today. So in the interest of time, I'll just say to all of our special guests, it's always an honor to stand with you and work alongside of you on behalf of the people of Illinois. I certainly do want to acknowledge chief sponsors of House Bill 3922, Senate Majority Leader Kimberly Lightford and Representative LaShawn Ford. You both have done a remarkable job, and because of you, Illinois will observe Juneteenth National Freedom Day. And I know that there are so many others who joined you in this effort. Speaker Emanuel Chris Welch, the entire Illinois Legislative Black Caucus, the Illinois General Assembly from both sides of the aisle, the Illinois Juneteenth Committee. Thank you all for your hard work in ensuring that Illinois officially celebrates and honors Juneteenth. And before I begin my formal remarks, I do want to take a moment to welcome Director Christina Schutt. You and your entire team at the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Library and Museum have been such gracious hosts to us today, and it's only fitting that we are here in the presence of a signed copy of the Emancipation Proclamation celebrating Black freedom and liberation. It seems that there's not a day that goes by that I do not recollect that I am the descendant of enslaved people only 4 generations removed. It seems that there's not a day that goes by that in my work to advance justice, equity, and opportunity for all Illinoisans, that I don't reflect on the fact that those in my bloodline did their work in the fields of Mississippi from sun up to sundown, brutalized, being torn from their children, forbidden from learning to read, spending all day, every day working to build wealth for those who owned them as their personal property. And I think about how they must have prayed for our freedom. There must have been days that they never imagined it for themselves, but they prayed that their children and their grandchildren and their great-grandchildren and those of us standing here today, that we would one day be free, that we wouldn't have to live under those conditions, that we would have autonomy to make decisions, that we would live together with our own families and on our own land and be educated, that we would no longer be viewed as property, but as human beings who deserve safety and equality and prosperity and, yes, freedom. that perhaps one day their descendants might make history as Illinois' first Black lieutenant governor, or the first Black Speaker of the House, or the first Black woman to serve as Senate Majority Leader, or the first Black Executive Director of the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Library and Museum. I can't help but think about that period of time between January 1st, 1863, when the Emancipation Proclamation went into effect, and June 19th, 1865, 2.5 years later, when 2,000 federal troops arrived in Galveston, Texas, to finally proclaim freedom to the enslaved people whose blood, sweat, and tears were still being used to make their owners rich. This was the true Independence Day. This was Juneteenth. Juneteenth is a time of celebration. Juneteenth is a time of telling our stories of hope. Juneteenth is a declaration of faith that despite chattel slavery, we will never stop fighting for freedom. That despite Black codes right here in Illinois that discouraged free Blacks to live in this state, we will never stop fighting for freedom. That despite lynchings and other forms of racialized violence that happened blocks away from where we stand right now, that we would never stop fighting for freedom. That despite race riots here in Springfield in 1908, in East St. Louis in 1917, Chicago in 1919, and Cairo in 1967, where our people were murdered and our businesses and homes destroyed, that we will never stop fighting for freedom. And in the face, of mass incarceration and ever increasing wealth gaps and a pandemic that laid bare the longtime inequities in housing and education and healthcare, that we will never stop fighting for freedom. Neither the Emancipation Proclamation nor the Declaration of Freedom on the first Juneteenth, and not even the 13th Amendment, allowed us as Black people to fully embody the freedom that we all deserve. Rather, we celebrate Juneteenth to acknowledge the deep faith and strength of our ancestors that propelled us to this moment. And it is a time to come together in every community of our state to recommit to and work towards the highest ideals of freedom for all. Dr. Maya Angelou said, "The more you know your history, the more liberated you are." Juneteenth National Freedom Day will help ensure every Illinoisan knows our history, and that future generations know our history, and that in itself is liberating. Thank you to the bill sponsors. Thank you to the Illinois Legislative Black Caucus for your tremendous leadership. Thank you to the members of the General Assembly, and thank you to all of you who helped advocate for this bill. And thank you, Governor Pritzker, for signing House Bill 3922 into law. It is just one more example that we truly are our ancestors' wildest dreams. It is now my honor to introduce one of the champions of the bill, my friend and a tremendous advocate for justice for all, Representative LaShawn Ford.
My notes are soaking now, so let's see what we can do. Before I start, I wanted to make sure that we brought up one of the people that we do this for. I don't remember his name because I'm at the age now where I forget like real fast if I don't write it down. But Sean, you have someone that you brought. He's probably the youngest person here, and we need to bring him up because this is why we do it. He's a Black young man, and he's here. He's going to be going to DePaul. And I know I'm going to get in trouble because this is not a part of it, but just say your name.
Derek Vaughn.
All right. We'll shake the governor's hand. Today is more than a bill signing moment for me and for all of us. It's a moment for reflection about our ancestors. I think we should take a moment of silence and recall, as the governor talked about, how Black people were treated in this country. As that we pause at this moment and reflect just a little bit on how this country treated Black people, but today we're here with a bipartisan bill with white people, Black people, and brown people all voting for it. It shows that as much as we think we have a lot of work to do, and we do come together to do things like this to prove that it's possible for us to do a lot more. So I'll pause just for a moment for our ancestors. So nothing I could say today could give justice to what we're about to accomplish today, and that is to sign the bill for Juneteenth. But I'll say, thank you to the governor for standing by your word. It was on June 19th, Governor JB Pritzker said, "From the genuine criminal justice reform to a fundamentally reimagined vision of policy to sustain investment in Black communities, we will build an Illinois that prioritizes justice, equality, and opportunity for all people." It's the quote of Governor JB Pritzker. He said he would also work to pass a law so that Illinois commemorates Juneteenth as an official holiday in Illinois, and here we are today. Thank you so very much, Governor JB Pritzker. And I should thank my speaker. I'm so proud to have him as the Speaker of the House, because without him, this too would have not had an opportunity to advance. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I'd never like to come behind Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton, because she has that thunder. And thank you so much, my Senator Lightford, for being a leader and a role model and a mentor to me. Thank you. To me, the meaning of Juneteenth is Freedom Day. Is rooted in emancipation for the enslavement, so it involves both celebration and also joy, but also pain. June 19th marks the anniversary of the day in 1865 when the news of the Emancipation Proclamation reached Galveston, Texas, nearly 2 years after the proclamation had been issued. Today is a win for Illinois, and it's a win for our country. It's not a Black holiday, it's an American holiday that we all must celebrate. The world is changing, and people of all ages are talking about Juneteenth. Don't you feel it? I know everyone in this room has been in discussions about Juneteenth, and I know everyone in this room have said and heard people say, I knew nothing about Juneteenth. I knew nothing about Juneteenth until recently. And we don't have to be ashamed of that, because it's our school systems that have failed all of us, not just Black people, but also white people, brown people have been miseducated in our school system. That's why the Black Caucus and our colleagues did the inclusive history so that that is no longer a problem. And so today in Illinois, we're doing our part, as the governor said, to build on the Black Caucus educational pillar that the governor signed to have a more inclusive history in our classrooms. This is a step in the right direction to help tell a more accurate history in America, one step toward a better understanding of the struggle of this nation. and a step closer to respecting our differences and racial harmony. And finally, to a more modern day comparison to Juneteenth. And Governor, you've done your part to help remedy it, but I want to say I could never pass up our opportunity to advocate even harder. And so when we think about the cannabis industry, let's think about the cannabis industry. And so 400 days later, there's not one Black majority owner in the cannabis industry. They're behind. No different than 2 years after the Emancipation, Black people left behind. What a comparison. But we're so lucky that we have a governor that's going to do everything that he can to work to make sure that our social equity applicants are successful in the state of Illinois so that they can be the very best business in Illinois. Think about the comparison. And Governor, think about how we're going to work to make sure our social equity applicants don't feel the pain that Black people are feeling in this country from being left behind in education and businesses and all other aspects to lead generational wealth to our families. So thank you very much, Governor, for signing this bill, and I look forward to working with all of you. And next is the Majority Leader, Senator Lightford, who I love dearly, and I look forward to continuing to work with her in her endeavors as a senator. Thank you.
To God be the glory for the things he has done in my life. That was an amazing parallel, LaShawn. The governor had me in tears. The lieutenant governor's thunder strengthened me, and then LaShawn just blew me away with his parallel. It's been an awesome morning. Good morning to all of you. I bring greetings to you on behalf of the 4th Senate District of the state of Illinois. This day is a breakthrough in Illinois history, and I am so grateful to be a part of it. Juneteenth is a state holiday in Illinois. It blows me away. And this day, I will never forget. This is a blessed day. For I know whom shoulders I stand on. For I know the sacrifices and the pain and the resilience my ancestors endured. And I am thankful to all of them. My grandfather's grandmother was an enslaved Indian. Her name was Mama Mamie, and she was bad. She had the thunder. She was strikingly beautiful. She had strong features, and I truly thank her from the bottom of my soul for being the pillar of our family. I also thank our governor, JB Pritzker. He's always been a man of his word. He just received this bill just 5 days ago and made it his priority to sign this important legislation, making a more inclusive Illinois. It reminds us that freedom and racial equality have always been a hard-fought battle for Black Americans, and it gives us an opportunity to celebrate our culture and achievements. I would be remiss if I did not also thank all of the advocates, including the Illinois Juneteenth Committee. Ms. Marjorie, it's been a joy working with you. Yes. For supporting our statewide effort, for educating and advocating across Illinois for over 22 years. I was never taught of Juneteenth. It was always Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks. That's the only thing the school system taught Black children. I learned of Juneteenth as a freshman at the campus of Western Illinois University. 1986, baby. It was in African American Studies when I too learned of Juneteenth from a quote from Maya Angelou. However, I was reminded by Forest Park Mayor Rory Hoskin. Forest Park is one of the communities in the 4th Senate District, and Rory came aboard as the first African-American trustee. And he shared with me in 2009 the significance of Juneteenth. He was always a strong advocate of having this as a law in Illinois, as he hails from Galveston, Texas. And I'm so proud to have been a partner with you, Rory, and to all the others. So thank you, Mayor, for joining us on today. So we must continue the fight for equity until all people in this state truly enjoy the same rights, privileges, and opportunities. That's why I led the charge of creating the Illinois Legislative Black Caucus 4-pillar agenda to rid Illinois of systemic racism, and the entire Illinois Legislative Black Caucus should be applauded for our unity, our steadfast dedication, and for us creating history right here in Illinois. Please give all of my colleagues a round of applause. And I'm always pleased to work with my colleague, State Representative LaShawn Ford, on this piece of important legislation, as well as so many others we've done over the years. Black history is American history. We are Americans, and the emancipation of our ancestors should be honored, just like every other memorable event in our nation's past. We must continue to ensure that our story is told, and that starts with making Juneteenth a state holiday. Juneteenth is a part of our journey that should be celebrated with pride and joy. And I will join Representative Ford with the task of ensuring that inclusive American history will ensure that it becomes a part of our students' history books. We have to learn about who we are as a people. Juneteenth is a day to take a stand to keep Black history alive by creating memories with your families and friends. And to honor the holiday, I encourage you to take a stand, to reflect, learn, and educate yourself, gaining a greater understanding of our past and the struggles of Black Americans. This, in fact, will help all of us come together to forge a brighter future. I also encourage you to celebrate our Black culture and contributions. Black people were at the forefront of music that we all love, that brings us together, from country to jazz, to rock, R&B, hip hop. Many people favorite American foods are historically soul food. And Black inventors gave us traffic lights, home security systems, and the portable ironing board. Imagine what life would be like without these innovations. Our people's struggle to achieve full equity in Illinois continues. Juneteenth, however, is a day of remembrance and celebration, but it's also a reminder that Black people still do not have all of the rights and privileges enjoyed by others, and that our fight is not over. But please, I hope all Illinois residents join me every June 19th to rejoice in the oldest national celebration of the freedom from slavery in this country. Happy Juneteenth. Thank you. I have the honor and privilege to introduce my state rep, whom hail from my hometown. And I've known well over 20 years. He's my brother, a wonderful friend. He says that I was his mentor, so I'm like, okay, that's cool. The first African-American Speaker of the House that I thought I would never witness, Speaker Chris Welch.
Well, good morning, everyone. It truly is an honor and a privilege to be here with all of you this morning. And yes, Senator Lightford is, was, and always will be my mentor. When I decided to run for this office many, many years ago, she was the very first person I called and the very first person that showed me the way. And so I will always honor and respect Senator Lightford and everything that she has taught me. It's such an honor to be here with our distinguished guests, our dynamic governor, JB Pritzker, and our fantastic Lieutenant Governor, Juliana Stratton, who I had the honor to serve with in the House, and all of our colleagues on both sides of the aisle, in both chambers. What a fantastic day we have here in Springfield. We know it's going to be a busy day for us in the House, but I am so glad to be here today for this momentous occasion. I imagine everyone here can understand what this bill signing actually means for me in particular. You've heard the governor mention it, Lieutenant Governor, Senator Lightford. In my first term as the first Black Speaker of the Illinois House of Representatives, the first Black person in our state's 200-plus year history, we join here today to make Juneteenth a paid state holiday. I don't think anybody in this room ever thought we would actually get to this day. But because of all those folks over there and our courageous governor, we are here today to make it a reality. At the same time, though, we are doing this because, in part, as Rep. Ford said, Black history has not been recognized or honored enough throughout our country's history, not just here in Illinois, throughout our country's history. We're doing this because not enough understand what Juneteenth is all about. Well, in short, it's said that Juneteenth is America's second Independence Day. Do you guys understand what that means? July 4th in this country was always celebrated as America's Independence Day, but Black people didn't feel free. Black people always celebrated a second day as Independence Day, and that was Juneteenth, June 19th. Why? After President Abraham Lincoln decreed the Emancipation Proclamation, which is actually here in this room today, those held as slaves in Texas had not yet learned of their new freedom. It wasn't until 2 years later, when Union forces reached Texas, where my friend and the great mayor from Forest Park hails from, that they learned that their chains had been broken, Mayor. And it was then that they, the freed Black men and women, celebrated the day as Juneteenth. Ever since, Black Americans have echoed the words Juneteenth with pride, courage, joy, and sometimes sadness. Juneteenth, 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 a day that the state will celebrate with pride, courage, and joy. We will celebrate it together as one. We were freed that day, but our work towards liberty and justice for Black people still continues so we can become the perfect union as we aspire to be. But this truly is a right step to honor our history. Juneteenth, just a couple of days away. Juneteenth, just a couple of days away. I want to thank my friend, Representative Ford, and my mentor, Senator Lightford. They're my nest mates. We've been nested together for a few years now, and we get in trouble together. John Lewis would say, good trouble together. And of course, the members of the Black Caucus. It's because of all of you that we made this bipartisan effort a reality. It's truly an honor and privilege for me now to introduce a history maker herself, the first Black legislator to ever represent Springfield and/or the Decatur area, a historical history maker right here from the capital city. Please welcome Senator Doris Turner.
Good morning. I don't think anyone in this room can truly understand or appreciate how excited and proud I am to be standing here this morning. Since I ascended to the Illinois State Senate just a few months ago, I have had the opportunity to sponsor and co-sponsor legislation and participate in bill signings that will impact my community and the state of Illinois in a major way, but none, not one, in the historic manner that Governor Pritzker's pen will today as he signs House Bill 3922, making Juneteenth Freedom Day a state holiday. You will hear many people say that it's a symbolic gesture, just another state holiday. However, I assure you, nothing could be farther from the truth. The signing of this legislation is a significant recognition of the history of Black Americans in this country and an opportunity to reflect on the long struggle for freedom and how far we still must go before we are all truly free. This year has been a testament to how a dedicated, focused group of individuals can change the trajectory of a state with respect to criminal justice, healthcare, education, economic access, and now historical recognition and reconciliation, each building on the other and providing a generational impact. When you talk about a year ago, as a member of the Springfield City Council, my seatmate, Alderman Sean Gregory, that's sitting in the front row, and I began a quest to make Juneteenth a Springfield city holiday. And last night, that ordinance passed the council on an 8-2 vote with 8 co-sponsors. And today, I stand here as a proud co-sponsor of legislation that Governor Pritzker will soon sign near a rare signed copy of the Emancipation Proclamation, making Juneteenth an Illinois state holiday. It has been a remarkable 2 days. Today is also a day of great pride and personal excitement for me, and it's really quite emotional. My parents are both from Texas, proud Texans, so I have celebrated Juneteenth for as long as I can remember. It was a major statewide celebration, but never recognized much outside the Black community. So I just really wish that my ancestral family was here to see how their celebration of freedom has grown to international significance and the small role that their great-granddaughter, granddaughter, niece has been able to play in making it happen. So as I take my seat, again, I thank you, Governor Pritzker, for your leadership and always, always being on the right side of history and always being a man of your word. And I have one request. I ask that as we all leave here with a renewed dedication to keeping our history alive, and in any way that we can, continue to ensure that our history takes its rightful place within and throughout America's history. This year has shown that that is possible. So thank you. And I now bring to the podium Mayor Hoskins.
I serve as mayor of a town called Forest Park, just outside of Chicago, that is ably represented by Speaker Welch, Leader Lightford, and Representative Ford. So thank you to my friends and our leaders in Springfield and in the entire Black Caucus in the legislature. Galveston is my hometown, In 1980, we had the first celebration of Juneteenth as an official state holiday. It's extremely important when the government unit stamps a holiday as an official holiday. It lets the people know that the jurisdiction they live in affirms their history. So thank you, Governor. Some of the speakers have talked about, the horrors of slavery. But then there was a lot after that. This country, unfortunately, wanted to bury Black achievement in a lot of ways. When I was a child growing up in Galveston, in 1980, Juneteenth was kind of new to me. I was 9 years old. In our history classes, I had a Black male history teacher. I think it was 10th grade. And he taught our class, an integrated class, about Juneteenth. None of the white children knew what Juneteenth was. They said, Mr. Weaver, why do they call it Juneteenth? He says, well, June 19th is the way Black people said Juneteenth. We have a more rhythmic way of doing things. That's the way he explained it to the children. Governor, when we used to go on field trips, we would have the opportunity to buy Confederate money. Why would Black school children want to buy Confederate money? But that was the reality of the South in the 1980s. My university, the University of Texas, was a shrine to the Confederacy. Big statues of Confederate generals rearing back on horses with sabers. I don't think I went a day in school without seeing some student with a Confederate shirt. So this is a hugely symbolic gesture for the state of Illinois, my new home state, to adopt the Juneteenth tradition as a state holiday. So Governor, thank you. It's my understanding that you're ready to sign the bill.
Thanks for watching, and if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to our channel. And while you're at it, please leave us a comment. Thank you for watching.